This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Today's episode of the Motor City Sports Rant is made possible thanks to a great sponsor, the Motor City Pawnbrokers. The Motor City Pawnbrokers are a one-stop pawn shop when you're in need of short-term cash or pre-owned or new merchandise. Go check out all the information regarding the Motor City Pawnbrokers by visiting their website, motorcitypawnbrokers.com. With 4 locations in Ferndale, Warren, Roseville, and Detroit, their mission is to deliver exceptional value. When you go into the Motor City Pawnbrokers, they have a mantra of providing great customer service. I know that people sometimes are hesitant to go into places like that, but Mark and the gang over there, they do great work, and their mission, their mantra is to deliver exceptional value and to provide great customer service. If you go into one of the 4 locations, tell them the Detroit Sports Podcast sent you, and they'll treat you really well. A great sponsor of the network, the Motor City Pawnbrokers.
Detroit is the greatest! Straight up light you on fire for a Coney dog right now.
Takes, throws, end zone, Calvin, touchdown, Detroit Lions!
Welcome in, everybody. Thank you for downloading the latest edition of the Motor City Sports Rant. I am the Doc. John Macaroon, Jason Jarvie will be dialing in shortly. We got a great podcast episode for you, so pod up. Jason and I are going to have a conversation regarding the news that was made on Monday regarding the Palace. Tom Gores decided that, you know what, we're going to partner. We got a new venture, and the Palace of Auburn Hills will be no more. And it's kind of a sad day when I heard the news. I was like, man, all the great memories that we experienced at the Palace of Auburn Hills. Remember, you know, the Palace of Auburn Hills is relatively new. I mean, 1989 is not that far gone. And the Pistons played there, created a lot of great memories. Many people also will remember the Palace for a lot of great concerts, a lot of great wrestling events, a lot of marquee things took place at the Palace. And now, you know, the Pistons have decided to, whether you agree or disagree, they've decided to play their home games at Little Caesars Arena and to work with and partner with the Detroit Red Wings. And I think when people look at that, I think there's a mixed review there. I think early on, because of the play of the Pistons, many of the fans from Oakland County just haven't gone down there. And you've now seen that early on the seats were red. Now, in the upcoming seasons, the seats have been replaced already. And that decision, that did not go very well. That decision to create red seats was a real bad problem because it was an eyesore during all the games with no patrons. And now, early on they used sponsors and they covered it up, but now the majority of the seats there in the lower bowl are black. But the Palace, I can't wait to talk to Jason about it, his memories and what his thoughts were. And then second half of the podcast, we got to talk about it because I was quite frankly shocked at the reaction that Red Wing fans had regarding the draft, Steve Yzerman's first draft. I thought that Steve Yzerman would have the benefit of the doubt, but early on, people were like, whoa! When that defenseman was drafted, everybody kind of freaked out a little bit, so I'll get Jason's sense of it when I dial him up right now. Jason Jarvie joins me. What's up, my friend? Good to talk to you.
Indeed, it's been a week or so, so yeah, it's good to talk some sports.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the Pistons. Obviously, news was made on Monday regarding the Palace of Auburn Hills. We'll take a trip down memory lane, and then the second half of the podcast, we'll talk about the Red Wings and the draft that Steve Yzerman had. He obviously targeted a need, an area that was deficient, and he went heavy on the defense. So I want to get your sense of that and the fans' reaction because, quite frankly, I was shocked at some of the outcry already. I'm like, dang, even Steve Yzerman not above being criticized here in Detroit. I was like, wow. So I'll get your sense of it as well. You can follow Jason on Twitter at Jarvie the King. You can follow the network at Detroit Podcast. I did get a chance to see you were on vacation, huh?
I was. Me and my wife, we went for our anniversary. We went to Chicago.
How was it? I said we were going to get a review of Hamilton. I want to table that. Part of your experience going to Chicago was seeing Hamilton, I take it. I want to maybe get that next week or the week after. I definitely want to get a comprehensive review of Hamilton. But overall, it was a good vacation, much needed time off?
Definitely. It was great. Love hanging out with the kid, but it's also nice just, not having that responsibility for a couple days.
No doubt about it. Me and my wife definitely enjoy when my mother-in-law or my mom watches the kids, no doubt about it. Sometimes you have to. You got to recharge. You have to miss the kid a little bit, and it makes you better parents. So good for you guys, and you deserve it. You're a hardworking guy, so I'm glad to hear that. Can't wait to get your review of Hamilton. I'm certain you liked it because, by and large, it's such a great musical production. So I can't wait for that. Stay tuned for future episodes of the podcast. Jason will break it down, his experience in Chicago seeing Hamilton. But news was made earlier on Monday when it was announced. The Pistons put out a press release that Tom Gores is partnering with another company, and the Palace of Auburn Hills, starting in the fall, will be no more. And when I got the alert, I was kind of like taken aback because I was in downtown Detroit. I was at the Detroit Golf Club, and I was just reading it. I was sitting there in the media room, and I was just kind of reading it a little bit. And I actually kind of got a little bit of an emotion. I was like, I was a little bit bummed out because of the fact that, there were so many great memories that I can recall, not only seeing the Pistons when they were playing really solidly back in 2004, a lot of years where they were really contenders, a lot of great memories at the Palace. But for me also, I had a lot of great memories at the Palace watching wrestling events. I mean, pay-per-views, a lot of great memories of Dennis Rodman and Hulk Hogan kind of coming out on television and doing their thing back in the day when I was a kid. So when I heard the news, it's kind of just like, man, these arenas, it was one of the last arenas that was kind of built and paid for by Bill Davidson, and people still messaged me on our Twitter page. They still said, man, they were kind of surprised, caught off guard that building that's still pretty much useful couldn't be turned into something that could have been entertainment-based. But unfortunately, in this life, it's all about dollars and cents, and Tom Gores realized, look, let me partner with a company, let me make some more money, but the Palace of Auburn Hills, fall of 2019, will be no more.
Yeah, I mean, once Little Caesars Arena came out and they made the announcement that the Pistons are going to go down there, it was really just a matter of time because you can't have two arenas. It's just an arena just for entertainment. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And especially, if you were going to turn it into something that's just like concert based, you'd have to convince somebody to go perform out at Auburn Hills, which is Metro Detroit, outside of Metro Detroit, instead of performing in this brand new arena that part of the reason that they built it is for performers because when, I don't know if did you take the media tour when they had that?
No, what went down?
When we took the media tour, they showed us like the private rooms that they had for these for acts that are coming in, and they're like, these are like the best. Like, we looked at all the new arenas that had been built in previous years, and they wanted to like add everything so they could make it so the act could literally just come to the arena and hang out there the entire time. They wouldn't have to go anywhere else. So why would you want to go out to Auburn Hills when you can just go to this brand new arena? So it was really only a matter of time, but it does suck because, I still do feel like the Pistons should be playing out in Auburn Hills. It's just the Little Caesars it's a hockey arena. It was built for the Red Wings. It wasn't meant for the Pistons. And so it's definitely a bummer because so many of my early experiences going to sporting events and seeing concerts was at the Palace of Auburn Hills.
Exactly. So many memories. And like I was saying before you came on and dialed up, 1989 is not really that far away. And you just realize, wow, these arenas get outdated quickly. And I think a lot of fans really respected Bill Davidson just due to the fact that he didn't take taxpayer money. He just built it on his own and said, look, I want to build a marquee venue that the Pistons can play in. And look what it was called, the Palace of Auburn Hills. And I think the name was so befitting. It was great, a great name, the Palace. And the Pistons got in there and right away, early on, started creating great memories in that building. So I just think that by leaving, Tom Gores really kind of took away a lot of the luster of the Pistons organization. But I don't see it. Exactly. I agree with you. I don't see the massive love from the city of Detroit. I mean, at the same time, there's a lot of fans in Detroit that love the Pistons, but I think you've alienated a lot of your hardcore fans that were in Oakland County. I mean, the Palace was pretty much a 10-minute drive from a lot of your biggest paying customers who just haven't transitioned now with the Pistons struggling down there in Detroit. They just haven't gone. So I just was like, man, all the great memories. I just feel like, yeah, it stinks that another entertainment venue, another entertainment company didn't come in and say, you know what, let's do something entertainment-wise and things like that. But I can agree with you. I mean, Little Caesars is state-of-the-art in terms of what they can provide, the amenities and things like that. But at the same time, I think a lot of fans are upset, too, because the Palace, man, when the Pistons were not good, you could get a ticket for like $10. You could get in there.
I remember the days when like you would go into like a Little Caesars and they would have the little vouchers that like present this and you get a free ticket. I'm like, what? I'll just take like 10 of these.
Yeah, and it was like, you know what? A lot of times too, and the weird part was in the move that was made in that the final couple seasons of the Palace, you know, Goris put some money into it, well over I think $20-30 million. He renewed the seats, he upgraded everything. It kind of had a nice feel to it, and then he just up and left. So
yeah, they made that whole new like the window. I don't know, the atrium. They made a huge atrium. They put like the $10 million viewing screen, and it made zero sense.
Yeah, all that money invested. But like I said, when you got $1 billion and you're a guy with means, you can just do stuff like that and it doesn't really put a dent in your pocketbook. You just make it back the next couple years. And the Palace, like I said, it was so user-friendly. And really, the upper bowl was really nice. I mean, it was, you could sit up top in the 18th row in the second deck and still have a decent view, especially with that big screen. Now at Little Caesars, I think part of the reason why a lot of people are unhappy is that the overall experience, if you go to Little Caesars, is okay. But for the money, I think by and large, many people walk out going, man, I'm kind of priced out. I mean, if I want a good seat, I got to pay upwards of, $50-$60. Nobody really wants to sit in the upper deck because they're scared crapless regarding, the view there and the steep nature of Little Caesars. So, and like I said, with parking, with food, you can't get out of there even if you get a cheap ticket for under $125. So it's super tough, and especially for the product. I mean, that's the biggest thing that we'll always talk about is the fact that Pistons aren't that good. And, in future podcasts, we'll talk about the fact they drafted an 18-year-old on a team where your best player is 30 and, is a guy that kind of needs some talent right now, and you drafted a guy that needs to develop real quick. So that's a fascinating look at what the Pistons are doing. And by and large, a lot of the fans have said, see ya, we're not involved, we're not invested. And I just think that's why, people have a lot of great ties to the Palace championships, a lot of great memories, a lot of great playoff series. I mean, obviously, one of the negative things that happened there was the malice at the Palace was a memory.
Hey, I don't see that as negative. That's just it's storied history, man.
Storied history, exactly. Something that took place there that everybody remembers. One of the dark days, I guess, for the NBA when you got NBA players throwing down with fans and stuff like that. So a lot of memories there. A lot of great memories with acts, the Pistons, entertainment. Yeah, exactly. Concerts, like you said. And it was just.
And what about all the other sports they had there? The Detroit Vipers.
Yes.
What about the soccer teams that we had? The Rockers and the Neon.
I
remember going to all those games. I mean, it was a good time.
It was a good time. And by and large, I think throughout the time I went to the Palace, towards the end, which I think was disgraceful, the last season, the Pistons charged you like $15-$20 to park. That was kind of like, oh, come on. But by and large, every time I went to the Palace in my youth, the parking was $10 flat. So if you took 2 or 3 people and you just everybody pitched in, everybody could just pay $3, a $10 ticket. You had yourself a good time, really, for $15. And I think that was part of the reason why many people were very fond of the Palace, is that it was affordable. It wasn't outlandish, but it was so tough. The toughest part about the Palace, though, if you went to an event and you stayed the entire time, you were gridlocked in that parking lot for an hour minimum. There was no way. It literally would feel like sometimes you could walk out the Palace faster than you could use your car to get out of that Palace. It was so crazy, and so that's why many people, if you paid attention, late in games would just fly out of there because nobody wanted to wait an hour and a half in that parking lot, man. It got bad at times.
Oh, you had to be smart about it, man. Let's stay until the very end of everything.
I do. I think that's a rule. No, you try to bust out early?
I mean, if it's one thing. If it's regular season, I'm not going to worry about, the last 5 minutes in the fourth quarter. If it's a playoff game, I'm going to stay in the playoff game. But you got to be smart, man. Unless you really have, you have all the time in the world and you can sit in that gridlock then get out a couple minutes earlier, man.
What's your favorite Piston memory from the Palace?
Probably one of the times that I was dancing with the spare tires. I mean, it's got to be when we played in the NBA Finals. Even though we lost that year, that I was able to be there and was able to be on court for, Game 3 of an NBA Finals game. Just the vibe there, just feeling that vibe when they were actually really, really good. That was some of the greatest memories I have of the Pistons.
You're talking about 2005 when they made that run again with San Antonio when unfortunately Sheed made that blunder that potentially could have cost us a back-to-back title. Jason Jarvie was a dancer there, and it was called the Spare Tires. It was a great group there, and Jason was part of it, and he had firsthand knowledge, got to dance and have a good time. And actually, from that vantage point, I'm sure when you're entertaining and doing stuff like that, you're right on. You can feel all the energy from the crowd, right?
Oh yeah, the crowd was crazy, and I mean one of the best moments was I forget what we were doing. I think it might have been we danced to like Eye of the Tiger, and we were dressed up like boxers from Rocky, and you could see the Pistons bench just cracking up, and you saw Sheed just dying laughing on the bench. That was one of the coolest things.
No doubt about it. To this day, many Piston fans have a lot of love and respect for Rasheed Wallace, so that's really cool. But yeah, sad times. This fall, the Palace of Auburn Hills will no longer, be in the same situation. And Tom Gores, like I said, he's going to have his hand in it, partnering with another company to do some work and stuff like that. So that's the way it is. Everything changes. Nothing lasts forever, and not even the Palace of Auburn Hills. But we got a lot of great memories. We'll always have the times with the Pistons and other entertainment events, and we just have to make do. We just got to find ways to find our entertainment now in 2019 in a different way. Now, switching gears, switching topics, the NHL draft happened, and it was the first draft with Steve Yzerman at the helm. And I was like, okay, interesting, coming off the Pistons draft where, they went young and kind of took a couple guys, foreign guys that are going to be probably, going to need a couple years to season and things like that before they can really contribute. So everybody turned their attention to the Red Wings, and everybody was wondering, okay, Steve Yzerman, work your magic. Go out there and get some talent. And with the 6th pick, people were kind of like, whoa, wait a minute. And I think it got heightened by the fact that Mo Seider came out and said, whoa, wait a minute. I was even shocked that I was drafted, this massive defenseman. Many people were like, huh? Who is this guy? He's off the radar. Not even, a lot of, fans that were looking at mock drafts were kind of looking at it and going, who the heck is this guy? Wait a minute. No, he wasn't even projected in the top 12, 15 in a lot of mock drafts by experts. So when he said that, I think it kind of cautioned and raised the red flag for a lot of Red Wings fans. I was kind of surprised, quite frankly, because of the fact that you and I aren't really looking in-depthly regarding a lot of these prospects. Outside of Jack Hughes, I don't think I watched a lot of film on a lot of these guys. But the critical nature of some of the Wings fan, I was kind of, surprised at the, skepticism of it because of the fact that, yeah, there were some quality centers that were available. Yeah, there were guys that potentially were better. But I think Steve Yzerman, when you look at it, he paid attention to the areas of weakness on the squad. He said, okay, we don't have a lot of defensemen. We got a lot of forwards that have potential. We have, guys that can compete. We still have defensemen, and that's what he targeted.
Yeah, and those are the exact same things that I thought when I went and checked out the draft. I'm looking down the list and I'm seeing the projected rank of all these guys. And once I got to Moritz, it was I was just like, what? I think they had it like projected draft value at like 15. I'm like, well, I guess, and it's the way I feel now is that we just gotta trust in Steve Yzerman. It's the same way I feel with the Lions that I think you gotta give him a little bit of time, and I think Steve Yzerman even gets more time than Matt Patricia and the Lions do because he's Steve Yzerman. And even though I think people have been criticizing him for this draft, you know that he's done it before. He's built a team in Tampa Bay. They didn't win, but they were very, very successful in his tenure. So at this point, we really just kind of have to be like, hey, I think he has the best interest for our team. and we're just going to have to see it play out.
Yeah, it's a fascinating look at how fast, tides can turn, and, with social media, with everybody. And like I said, when the draft pick just put the jersey on and had that big smile, he was like, I was even surprised at it. And to see that picture, though, I trust Steve Yzerman. Is it that hard? Is it wrong early on to trust Steve Yzerman until these guys actually get on the ice and show what they can do? Is it wrong to have too much trust? Should we be critical because of the fact there were actually better, talented centers that he could have taken and might have faster impact? Are we wrong to kind of have faith? Or are you and I wrong in looking at it from that perspective?
We're not wrong. Unless you are a professional NHL scout, we have zero credibility in being able to criticize Steve Yzerman because he has more knowledge of hockey in like one atom of his body than I do in my entire life and that I will ever have. So, I mean, we can talk and we can look at where they're projected, but really he's got his best interest out for the Wings. It's not like he's going to put together a bad team or he's going to try to put together a bad team. He knows what we do need, and we do need defensemen. And we also need big guys, and that's what the years preceding. One of my biggest issues is that we just haven't been able to match other teams' physicality, and this is something that's going to add to our team. Is we got big guys now who can actually throw their weight around.
Yeah, Moritz Seider, number 6 overall, round 1. He's a defenseman, 6'3", 208 pounds. Last season played in Germany, played in 29 games, 2 goals, 4 assists. The word everyone used is stunned because of the fact he was ranked the 6th best prospect among Europeans on some scouting reports. So that's where everyone's concern is like, okay, he's a European, he's a big dude, but he's not highly ranked. So you could have gotten better players, or, you could have maybe waited a little bit and traded down if you really wanted this guy. The other concern that people had is, yes, they took a goaltender, but they waited until the last round to do it. And so people are like, man, you haven't really paid attention to a position of need. You haven't paid attention to an area that maybe, you could realistically upgrade at a higher position. Now, waiting last in the, draft to do it might be a little bit concerning because of the fact that we all saw, a hot goalie in St. Louis carry that squad, halfway through the season, and he got hot, and the Blues won a Stanley Cup. So I'm not comfortable with Jimmy Howard, and if he goes down, forget about it. It's just going to be another lost season. So that kind of concerned me, but I'm okay if you target an area and you go out there and you address it and you go get guys that can produce, and these developmental caps will, really show what these guys can do. And I think that Steve Yzerman has an eye for talent. Exactly. He has an eye for talent. He's done it in Tampa Bay, and he made risky moves as well. I think he can also be creative in free agency and make some trades to help the Wings.
He was the guy who let Vincent Lecavalier walk. So it's just like he knows what he's doing, and I'm actually excited about the goaltender. The fact that the dude is like 6'7", isn't he?
He's a guy that potentially could do some things, but in those low-end rounds, it's realistically a long shot.
It's a long shot, but hey, when we traded for Jammer Candelario, weren't you like, can't we just get one guy? Maybe this is our one guy. I mean, it'd be cool. He's a giant.
Yeah, yeah, he's a giant, no doubt about it. What's his name? Carter Gillander?
Something like that.
Yeah, goaltender, 6'5", 172 pounds. Last season played in the AJHL, 16-4-0, 2.43 goals against average with a .915 save percentage. They say right now he's headed to Colgate for college hockey, so he'll get some chance. So he'll get a chance to be seasoned a little bit there. But so going into this upcoming season, would you say that you would buy the stock of the Red Wings in this season particularly?
I think you have to. I mean, if you're saying, is this team going to realistically compete and maybe try to win a playoff round, I think that's a stretch. I don't think it's a crazy stretch to say that maybe they sneak into the number 8th or number 7th spot, just because I do feel like they have a lot of talent on their roster. They have guys who can put the puck in the net if they can stay healthy. And if we can get some semblance of goaltending and defense, then we should be okay. We should be able to at least compete. And I mean, you saw it at the end of this past season that they got on a hot streak, and maybe something happens. I'm not saying that they're going to have like a Vegas Knights run in their inaugural season, but I think the Wings are on the up and up. I think we're going to start seeing some better hockey here in Detroit.
See, I'm on board with that thinking, but my final judgment will be reserved once I think Jeff Blashill is let go of his position. I think he's okay, serviceable with the talent that he wasn't given. I understand that it takes talent to win in the National Hockey League, but at the same time, not every position you're going to have is going to be ripe with great talented individuals. You got to see growth. Now, Dylan Larkin grew, Mantha grew, but I don't think at the pace that we all would like. So I think Steve Yzerman will observe, he'll be respectful, but once he decides, hey, okay, and he recognizes Jeff Blashill might not be the guy, he'll go out there, he'll find a great coach, and then the rebuild will really kick up a notch in the coming years. But I think he did a good job by, slowing down everyone's expectations, kind of having this kind of right now, this period of time. It's a grace period where everyone really, by and large, is on board with him. So I think he's handled everything correctly, but man, this day and age in 2019, not even Steve Yzerman garners benefit of the doubt. The response was crazy. Everyone was like, okay, honeymoon's over. What's he doing? And I think part of the problem is that it was kind of talked about that Ken Holland also liked this guy. And people are like, no, if Ken Holland liked him, he obviously spoke with Kenny about this and was like, all right, was maybe influenced to make this decision. So people still have a bad taste in their mouth regarding the experiences with Ken Holland late in his tenure with the Wings. But I really believe Steve Yzerman did his due diligence. He's got a pretty decent staff of people around him. Verbeek, he's got Chris Draper, got Malpe. He's got a lot of guys that have experience, and I do think that with the team that he's built, I think that there's an opportunity, at least for those that are listening to this podcast, relax a little bit and give him at least a year or two. You don't got to jump down his throat. I think he's got a strong chance to change your mind and really trust what he's doing. I think he'll hit on a lot of these guys.
I'm not sure. I'm not ready to say that he's going to hit on these guys, but he's going to have this team in the right direction, and he's going to turn something into something. So we'll see in the future.
No doubt about it. You can follow Jason on Twitter at Jarvie the King. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. If you've agreed or disagreed with anything that we've said, feel free, message us on our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast. Feel free, you can tag Jason, tag me in it. If you don't think that, if you totally disagree with Steve Yzerman, if you have any memories of the Palace you want to share, feel free. All right, Jason, I'll get you out of here on this. Everyone saw online that Darius Slay of the Lions, he actually went to someone's graduation party. So I put out on Twitter and I said, okay, anybody in the world of Detroit sports, you send them a direct message and you're like, hey, let's kick it. Let's hang out. Come over to my house. Let's have some beers and chit-chat on my patio. Let's hang out and spend 3 hours and bullshit a little bit. Who are you inviting?
Absolutely, Matthew Stafford.
Oh, my
God. No doubt.
That's
hands down.
Oh, my God.
I want to be best friends with Matthew Stafford.
What? Why?
Because the dude's awesome.
All right.
Football aside, I think Matthew Stafford would be a fun guy to hang out with.
Okay, you think on the down low, he would be funny, he might tell some funny jokes, tell some stories in a way that would be non-PC.
Awesome. Yeah, I think he'd be awesome to hang out with.
Jason, that's funny. And with that, I guess we'll end this podcast. I totally disagree. I think maybe somebody like the long...
Who would you hang out with?
I think Tyler Bertuzzi, maybe Dylan Larkin, maybe even Tom Izzo, somebody with a little more experience that has a wide knowledge of sports and has been around a little bit. Maybe even John Beeline to be like, okay, what actually happened over there, if he's going to be totally honest. But
Tyler Bertuzzi, the child. You don't hang out with Tyler Bertuzzi?
I think Tyler Bertuzzi would bring some young ladies over. We'd have a good time and might keep it fun. I think he's the kind of guy that you give him a couple cocktails and he'll light up a party.
Yeah, you don't think Matthew Stafford would light up a party? I want to be best friends with him so him and my son they can play, him and his kids, they can play together, and then he can coach my son to be a great quarterback, and then 20 years down the line, my son is the starting quarterback of the Detroit Lions, and he wins the first Super Bowl, and I am just the happiest person in the world.
For Jason Jarvis.
Is it too hard to dream, John?
Forget that. Totally against that. But anyways, you have your right to say it. No problems. As long as you invite me, we'll have a good time with it. For Jason Jarvie, I am the Doc. John Macaroon, you've just downloaded the latest edition of the Motor City Sports Rant. See you next time, Jason.
Later.
Okay, nice, idiot. You. Bye-bye.
Good day, sir. I said good day.
All right. Take care now. Bye-bye then.
Loser.